We have another new one as Blythe, who's with us now. She has launched a brand new show called Cyberly last week, and she's here to tell us all about it. Blythe, welcome back to the show.
Thank you guys for having me. I see the studio space is coming along nicely.
It is. I have a lot more equipment coming on the 5th, and then Billy over at production is going to come over, and we're going to get this really set up. But, beats the master bedroom like I had before.
It's looking good.
I think she was talking to me, Dooner. She was talking to me.
Okay, sorry about that. Well, all right. Here's a little cowbell for your new show, by the way, just to kick things off right here. So first of all, what the hell does Cyberly mean, and what is the show about?
Well, Cyberly, it was kind of a fun research project that I conducted for myself because I was looking for something that talked about, that implied tech, that implied the internet. And at first I was going to go with the show name Source Code. And turns out there's a couple other shows out there that publish quite frequently using that name. So it's probably not the best idea to go after that one. And then I discovered, I was trying to play off the word of cybersecurity, cyber, doing things on the internet. And I Googled the word Cyberly. It turns out no shows existed with that name, and Urban Dictionary actually classifies it as to do something through the internet. And I said, well, that's the perfect business name for me or the perfect show name for me, because it really just encompasses, B2B marketing, tech, how it all fits into the world of logistics, which is such there's an educational gap between the technology that's coming into the space and then for folks that are new to logistics just in general. So trying to blend those two worlds and unmuddy the waters for the audience.
Yeah, I love it. And I love it as an adjective. Do it in a cyberly fashion, et cetera. It sounds, I love the name. I think it's very cool. I got it right off the bat. So you talk about it's pretty rad to go from blogging on the floor because I couldn't afford a desk to hosting my own show on the top network for global news. Can you talk about that journey and the struggles to get here?
Sure. So in my early 20s, well, I should say that I have always wanted to be a business owner. Ever since I was in high school, I got a full ride to go to college based off scholarship. And my first year in college, it's kind of that moment where I looked around and I'm like, this feels like 13th and 14th grade. I want to take the courses that are about business. I want to jump headfirst into running a business. And so I dropped out of college pretty quickly, much to the begroan of my parents who had worked so hard to help me realize the value of education. But I took another path and I opened up my own business, sort of ran into that early, I guess, college struggle where you don't know what you want to do. You don't know who you want to be. And so I felt into a little bit of a lull. Wasn't working and ran into some financial difficulties, but I had a place to live. So I had just recently moved back to Jacksonville. I barely had any furniture. I ended up buying furniture off of Craigslist. I bought a couch and I bought a desk off of Craigslist from somebody who was moving. So I went pretty quickly off of blogging on the floor in my office into it was a mansion to me. And so getting that introduction into the business world and really learning what I want to do and what I want to be really just started in the blogging days and the stories that I wanted to cover and why I wanted to cover them. And I really credit blogging back in the mid 2000s as giving me the opportunity to get familiar with writing, what my writing style is going to be, what my voice is going to be. And that evolved into an opportunity to work at a local magazine. It then evolved into opportunities to work in local sports broadcasting. And now here I am on Freightwaves with, this show Cyberly. So it's really it's one of those moments where I look back and I'm like, wow, you really have come a long way. But I also feel very strongly that now the real work begins.
So what are some of the topics and what are your goals with the show? What are people going to learn over these next couple months as you get your feet wet with the program?
I think it's really want to focus on the B2B marketing side and the creator and the attention economy. That we have this wonderful world where over the last year, we have watched all of these freight and logistics shows, credit to you guys for really being the pioneers in that regard, because I think that you've been the inspiration to all of these different companies all over the US and really globally that have really started to focus on getting those in-house creative teams and starting to produce your own content and getting getting your voice out there. I think that that's a really big struggle for a lot of people. So being able to provide them with the insight of this is what is working in the past, this is what's working right now, and this is where I see it going in the future. Because the majority of logistics companies, they might not even have a marketing department. They might, it might be a situation where, like me, where I was the receptionist / executive assistant and I was just handed marketing. And so you're maneuvering through all of these different spaces, trying to figure out how to get your voice out there. And so that's really where I see the show going, is focusing on the creators that are making some noise now, and where I see the attention economy going, where we spend time online. Is it through video? Is it through short form video? Is it in Clubhouse? Is it on Twitter? Is it, in Instagram? Which of these networks are dying? And then which ones can we jump on and gain that early influence on those platforms?
That's going to be really, really, I'll be watching for sure. It's going to be very, very interesting. It's a topic that is very, very important. It's something you got to get into it. And it's something that is intimidating, if not scary, to certain people. Don't you find that, Blythe, when you're talking to people about this type of stuff? They understand some of the words that you're saying and some of the actions and outcomes that can be there, but they don't know how to execute it, right?
Absolutely. The fear. I mean, I was pacing in my house the day before the Cyberly show debuted, and I've been broadcasting for years. So I think that it's natural to feel scared, especially if you really care about it, because I think that that's the ultimate proof. And so having people realize the value that you're just having the same conversations at home as if you were broadcasting it out to an audience. COVID has sort of taught us that everyone has a webcam now. Most people have a microphone. You're working from home. You have this environment where you can devote that creative energy to the topics that matter most to you and matter most to your customers. And so it's really about getting the reps in, because you're not going to be good at something unless you start practicing at it. And so giving people that confidence, and maybe I can be, sort of that inspiration to them, because I didn't go to broadcasting school. I just get the reps in, and I practice and I research and I try to bring, the best content that I think is the most important to the audience. And so that's what I hope to bring every single week for Cyberly and then the other programming that I handle.
What was last week's episode about, and what do we have to look forward to this week?
Last week's episode was about short form video, and we had a great creator on, Shay Dixon. She is the CEO of Allegiant Logistics, and she is really starting to put herself out there and starting to create more content as well. And she's doing it in short form video. I'm a kind of an Instagram hater, and she absolutely convinced me by the end of the show that Instagram is where I need to put more energy into. She said that she's sourcing carriers and getting bids through Instagram DM, and I was blown away by that. And so being able to highlight folks like Shay in the previous episode, and then coming up in this week's episode, we're going to be talking about podcasting stats with the marketing director from Buzzsprout, which is a podcast hosting company. So we're going to be talking with him about how he tackles creative content internally, and then also advises podcasters into how they can create their own messaging and their own voice through their different podcasting and audio apps. And so it's going to be, that's sort of the content that I'm going after, is bringing outsiders, but also blending it in with the insiders within the industry who are already doing it really well.
Well, speaking of podcast stats, thank you, listeners. We have done over 100,000 IAB certified audio podcast listens this month, which is pretty good, because an IAB certified listen, that means that it has to be unique and someone has to listen to more than 1 minute, which is way more stringent than how website analytics are looked at, how video analytics are looked at. So those are really solid, non-fake numbers. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in and listening to our programming, especially on the audio side, because that is my baby. Now, we don't have the wheel with us, but I have a wheel in my mind, and I'm going to spin it. And my question to you, Blythe, is, you're now an over-the-road team driver. Would you rather your partner be a dumbass or a smartass?
Ooh, I would probably say smartass, because there is some intelligence behind it. I think that I don't have the patience level for dumbasses. I would probably just open up the door and just let them sort of roll out and not really notice it until later on.
Yeah, that's a great. You're kind of like the smartass of this team. Would you
I mean, I feel like there's a certain intelligence level if you're a smart ass, because then you have a little bit of stuff to back it up. And if you don't have the stuff to back it up, then you can sort of spot that pretty clearly or pretty quickly.
Well, that's where they cross the line from smartass to dumbass, right?
I think it depends on your take.
Yeah, I would prefer the smartass too. What I don't like is aggressive stupidity.
Oh,
that's really, really annoying me.
Yeah. Or if it gets in your way or it ruins your day. Hey, Blythe, before we let you go, how do people find your show, and when does it air next?
It's so new that I don't think that we have the podcast audio feed approved just yet, but you can find it on Freightwaves TV, and you can find it on YouTube. Cyberly every Thursday at 2 p.m. and from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m.
It's on Spotify and Stitcher also.
Oh, perfect. Yes.
And Simplecast and Freightwaves.com. It's just Apple. Apple's the main directory for you guys who don't know podcasting. Most feeds are pulled from the public directory that Apple has. So like Overcast, other podcast apps you may use. But the bug is fixed, Blythe. It'll be up on Apple Podcasts soon. Thank you once again for joining us, and congrats on the new show.
Thank you guys so much.